Hello, this is just a short clip to go with the Sustainable Gardening Workshop, and I'm just going to show you how to compost properly and the reasoning behind how you add different things to the compost heap. So here we've got quite a big heap, but the same principles work for a compost bin, either a plastic one or just a freestanding pile of stuff. It's good if you want the heap to be a reasonable size so that the plastic bins aren't actually that efficient because you can't get enough material in them to get the temperature up. So kind of that size would be really good. We've got a double one here so we can turn it over. So two main things to think about. You want to add, we spoke about this in the workshop, you want to add material, green material. So these are some grass clippings. So this is your greens. Same would go for just general weeds from around the garden or green clippings off perennials. So that's your greens, and then you've got your browns. So in here, this is just some browns that have been rotting down a little bit. So we've got like, there's old stems, there's leaves, there's even the grass that's been left to dry, that would count as brown. So when you're adding, you want to be doing layers. You want to be adding about 50-50. So if I add some grass, the grass is doing, well, again, the green material is adding nitrogen to the heap, and that's going to raise the temperature. You want the temperature to be high because that's going to kill off all the weed seeds and lots of the different plant pathogens. Obviously, if you've got garden compost, you don't want it to be full of weed seeds because then you're just going to spread that all over the garden and create more problems. So there has to be enough greens, but if it's too green, then you'll get a kind of slimy compost. So that's where the brown comes in. So you want it to be just like that, nice thin layer. I'll add enough grass to basically lift it up to about this height, lots more browns, and then leave it for about a few weeks, for about a month, and then you can turn it over. So this is so that you're mixing everything together well. So this has already been turned over from that side to this side. So the stuff that was on the bottom was then on the top. But you can do that again. The science behind compost is initially it's bacteria that's breaking down especially all the green material, and that's what's raising the temperature up. That's all the bacteria metabolizing all that stuff. And then after a while the bacteria start to die down and the compost heap cools. Then the fungi take over and they're going to start feeding on the brown material. So you want a compost, an end compost, that's good for fungi because they're the ones that are going to benefit the garden massively. Once everything's settled down, then that's when you start to get the composting worms and everything start to move in, and they basically finish off the job. And they can do that for as long as you like, as long as the compost is kept moist, not waterlogged. Yeah, so kind of banged on about it in the workshop, but soil is all important for sustainability. Everything starts from soil. It's them that's feeding the plants, that's going to then feed the wildlife, the bees, the birds. If you've got healthy soil, you're going to get lots of insect-eating birds coming into the garden. And just, yeah, looking after the nutrient cycles in the soil. By composting, you can use all your household food waste. So things like vegetable clippings, banana peels, that all counts as green waste, and add that to the heap as such. Yeah, but you really want to make sure you're not having too much greens. You've got to have enough browns because it's that brown stuff that's going to benefit the soil in the end. Just when it comes to food waste from the house, you need to make sure that in an open heap you're not adding cooked vegetables. You don't want to add bread or pizza crusts, or definitely not cheese or meat or fish. If you add any of those things, you're just asking for rats and other vermin to come in. So you really need to make sure that it's uncooked peelings only, unless you have a special type of bin which is closed and called bokashi bins. So it's different to what you can put in the bin that the council is going to take away. You can put anything in there, but just make sure if you have an open heap not to put any of those cooked foods on it. I just want to quickly talk about mulching. So we've looked at the composting. So once you're making your own garden compost, the best use you can make of it is to mulch around the garden. So mulching is just putting a fairly about 1 inch to 2 inch thick layer of compost or manure on top of the soil, and that's going to protect the soil. It's going to feed all the microorganisms in the soil, especially if it's got lots of brown material. That's going to be great for the fungi, which is going to help the plants. So if you just look in this little bit in here, this is some compost. This was added last autumn, so it's currently July. That was put in there about October last year, and no lie, we have not weeded this at all. There's not been a single weed. So it's brilliant for the garden and for the environment, but also it's going to massively reduce the amount of work that you need to do in the garden by retaining moisture, so you need to water less, and for stopping weeds, because if you put a nice thick layer of compost on top, imagine my hand is the soil surface and you've put that thick layer, all the weed seeds are on my hand, so they cannot germinate up through that layer. So it's only when you get fresh seeds that are dropped, maybe from birds, that's when you're going to have weeds germinating on the surface. So especially if you've got a big weed problem, a thick layer, like 3 or 4 inches of mulch would pretty much eliminate that problem. You just need to make sure you're using the right mulch. Yeah, and especially if you're planting a new tree or a shrub, maybe one that benefits pollinators or other insects, it's a good idea to mulch around the base of trees as well, especially to retain moisture in the first year, and then you need to water much less. Okay, so thanks again, thanks for joining the workshop, and we hope that was helpful for you, and we look forward to seeing some of your pictures of things you're planting, or maybe you're going to change how you manage your garden or something like that. So, hi there, this is Stuart, and today we're out in Castlebank Park. Just want to talk a little about helping wildlife in our gardens. If you've got a lawn, maybe think about how you can help the wildlife by not keeping it super cut close. So what we've done here, this is the bog garden in Castlebank Park, is we've created areas which we've just let grow. We've planted some bulbs, but you'll be surprised the different types of plants that are in your grass. It's not just grass, there's probably loads of daisies in there, there might be clover, things like buttercup, which is this yellow flower, but even just the long grass itself, that's great for butterflies and moths and all sorts of insects which are living and hiding in there. And of course, if there's insects, then there's going to be birds, so you're going to attract birds in. You might even get a few bats flying around if your long grass is helping the moths out. So you can kind of see the contrast. It doesn't need to look untidy. You've got nice closely cut grass, and it looks really good in contrast with the longer grass. And if you introduce a few of plants that you like, using Scottish wildflower seeds or bulbs, then you can get quite a nice effect after this is just a year old.